who's doing in and putting in their time despite the issues of pay. And Uganda is full of so many other, apart from the midwife I saw in Amuru, there are other Ugandan professionals who have gone all over the world. Probably you've heard of Dr. Edward Kiruta, who has done tremendous things in the United States, and others. So if we can retain them and pay them well, I think we can do better. May I invite Professor Freddie Sengova, Makerere University School of Public Health, to come and give us an overview of key health system issues in Uganda. And after that, we'll have the panelists speak one by one on how we can change the health sector in Uganda. Professor Sengova, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator Patrick, fellow panelists, and dear audience. This is a singular pleasure for me to be speaking on this theme of trying to make health services great again. It reminds me of politics far afield, where people are trying to make countries great again. I think this theme does make an implicit recognition that Uganda has had good days in the past, and therefore we are trying to seek ways to actually get back to those good days. So that is one theme I want to address. The other one is, of course, is talking about promoting health lives. And yes, we are living in a new era of sustainable development goals, where for us in health, the goal that is very proximal is about improving health and well-being. Some of us summarize it as universal health coverage for programs that are already on the ground or that we know are essential to improve the lives of our population. But this theme also further narrows down to 2 or 3 areas. One is human resource. How can we make our health system great again, particularly focusing on the theme of the workforce? The second theme is financing. How do we address the financing of health services to make them great again? They also talk about other areas, especially reproductive and sexual health. So in this, I'm trying to make a 10-minute presentation about what are the key issues in the health system that can make us improve the overall quality and effectiveness of our services. And without wasting a lot of time, let me start by addressing us as doctors. Apparently, I started off as a doctor, worked in up-country places, wanted to be a gynecologist, and I loved giving birth. I mean, helping mothers give birth. Men also give birth, not so? Frankly, at the time I trained, there was so much HIV and no remedies. So during my training in medical school, the hospital was full of hopeless cases of HIV. And many of my class ended up in public health. And I believe it was a rebellion of doing nothing to change the situation of our training. And so, the good news is that HIV eventually got medicines and people are no longer hopeless. So that is, I think, a big success we need to acknowledge. Even in Uganda, without a lot of resources, we've made our own mark on that. Many lives are currently living their full potential because of the partnerships and the help we've gotten from our brothers and sisters abroad. They've brought in money, they brought in ideas, they also contributed to how the system is working. Particularly in areas, medicine, areas, technology. But I want to tell you why eventually I moved from being a medical doctor to being a public health person, and why I think I'm standing here today. So in public health, we believe that the best attorneys of the poor are the doctors. We also believe that medicine is nothing else but politics on a large scale. We believe that we cannot improve the lives of our people without engaging those with the power and ensuring that the resources they control do actually speak to the needs of our population. So when we talk about human resource, I think we see an area where we really need a lot of advocacy, but also a lot of investment, which investment requires that we can fix the potential challenges. In Uganda currently, we have, according to WHO standard, we have less than a third of what it takes to deliver services of good quality for the population size that we have. Our plan to improve the workforce is now almost 10 years old. But at the time of making this plan, we also made a strategic choice not to meet the required standards. We actually made a decision to stay a third below the requirement in that plan. So I, as a government, we made a strategic choice, or a well-informed choice, not to provide adequate staffing. But every day we hear many issues, and I'm glad in the concept note for this meeting, somebody put something called finger pointing. There are a lot of finger pointings. Every time people come to a health facility, they expect health workers to be present. Let me give you a simple example. The standard staffing norms for a health center are 3 nurses, 2 midwives, a clinic officer. Those are the technical people. For you to provide 24 hours in that place, you need a qualified person. For every 8 hours, government allows any civil servant to work. Health workers are no exception. They have to work 8 hours a day, just like all civil servants. But if you listen to the media, if you listen to politicians, if you listen to ourselves, some of us even doctors, we want a midwife to work 24 hours every day, the whole year, no leave, no nothing. Should that midwife go to the market to buy something and the mother comes and she's not there, investigations are happening. People are being thrown in jail for this. In Uganda now, a mother should not die. The doctors have to be arrested, health workers have to be arrested. And what are we talking about? We made a policy decision not to provide adequate staff. We have laws that tell us people only work 8 hours a day. We should be closing these health facilities for the rest of the time. But we've chosen not to close them. But otherwise, we have taken health workers as scapegoats for policy problem or a policy decision we made. So what am I saying here is if we are looking for game changers, one of the areas has to be to revisit the investment decision on how to improve the sufficiency of the workforce. It's not only about numbers, it's also around skill mix. Right now, the work of a midwife in the health system has exploded. Previously, it was simply doing a few antenatal checks. But now there is a whole program called PMTCT. It has a lot of counseling, has a lot of records, has a lot of follow-up, a lot of education. We are introducing more and more on that side. But the midwives are the smallest population in the group. In the norms of staffing, midwives are supposed to be few. Actually, I think right now, if you put a population of a midwife per all the services within the health system, we need to probably increase the midwives by about 9 times to catch up with all the workload that we've introduced around the services of reproductive and maternal health. The other issue around the workforce is, of course, how we link the development of the workforce and the recruitment processes. Uganda, we are doing very well actually on training if you compare ourselves to surrounding countries. The number of people we are able to train, from doctors all the way to laboratory technicians, is actually much higher compared to countries like Malawi and many others in the region. But we have a big challenge. After training, these people are actually finding it very unattractive to work within remote communities. Part of the issue is, of course, what the minister talked about, that we know very well. Payments, salaries, incentives, welfare issues are very poor. Government made a decision to sell many health workers' houses around the hospitals, meaning that now health workers have to rent or find where to build their own house and commute to work. Time is lost. People eventually come and count it as absenteeism. Health workers don't get enough, so they actually spend more time digging and making their crops survive in the garden. The study we did, almost 60% of the nurses and midwives in upcountry spend at least 2 hours trying to weed their crops, either in the morning or in the afternoon, because that is their additional survival. Those in towns, of course, we know they go and open clinics. Many of you are here, but I believe you are about to run to your next clinic. So how these additional survival processes affect the services that need to be provided has to be understood. If a health worker is going to weed their garden so that they can get some food to complement their salary, should we be criminalizing it as absenteeism? Or should we be looking at what is the way to make them buy the food instead of growing it? Recruitment. We had a very innovative exercise here, and the last move of the resource. We had at one point decided that let's train midwives and nurses together so that they have common skills, so that when the other one is off duty, the remaining one has nursing and midwifery. We called it comprehensive nursing. Over the years, over 30,000 people have been produced in this program. Government, according to its policy, refused to enroll them, to recruit them. They've all found their way in the private sector. It's not a bad idea. They are treating Ugandans still. But as you know, private sector doesn't exist in remote environments. So we've only turned all that policy to support pro-urban private sector. As I wind up on this issue of human resource, I also want to talk about the game changers that we need to really put to government. The workload is a lot. The study done by a colleague, Namaganda, found that even the staffing norm right now that we are trying to fill and we have failed to fill, we are only around 70% of the required. But that required number is almost less by about 30%. In other words, it's not adequate itself. So we have this shortage, but there are areas we can try to improve. One of them is to remove needless care that people have to seek and increase the workload. We all know malaria in this case is a big source of workload. I'm glad I was in a meeting on Monday, and they are reviewing the malaria strategic plan. And their goal is try to reach elimination. But how they are doing that is what they are reviewing. Chances are they are far from making a difference. But yet we know that if actually we're able to reduce malaria significantly, and the way it has been done significantly in northern Uganda, using IRS, actually health workers were beginning to be deployed to do other activities, because there was some breathing space. So as we look for more workers, there is also room to prevent those things that are keeping us, or keeping the health workers busy. Malaria is one. Family planning is another. If you're a gynecologist in the room, you may not have this, but clearly around 40% of pregnancies we have in this country and around the region are accidental pregnancies. Pregnancies that could potentially be saved, and that workload shelved. Again, we can free our health workers a bit. So as we talk about human resource, we really need to think outside the box. It's not about getting more numbers, getting them paid, making them their welfare good. We also need to feel or think about ways to reduce the needless burden. I think that speaks well to the theme of promoting health lives. There is no value in getting more people sick so that the health system can demonstrate it can absorb more health workers or absorb more money. I think that is not morally correct. The best way is to try find ways to use health workers to prevent diseases that can be prevented, and we have very many of them. So as I wind up on this issue, I would like us to also reflect, and particularly the media here is also tuned, is that we have also toxic branding for health workers now that we really need to fix our minds on. I talked about how many times a problem happens and health workers are imprisoned. Politicians these days love to talk about absenteeism, thieves, and saboteurs when they are referring to health workers. So when you are looking at a young person looking to become a health worker, and I have a couple that come to me as a professor, they say, but professor, should I join being a doctor or a pharmacist? These people are poor. They are stealing medicines. They are always on pickups. Police is taking them for prison. And I had a big discussion with a niece of mine, very brilliant girl who became a good doctor, but she was like, I want to do business. This kind of toxic branding of health workers was putting her off. So as we reflect as a fraternity of health workers, we need to also to think about how the community is beginning to view us, and whether that will give us more people choosing to be health workers or choosing to go and be business people. By the way, we export most of our health workers to countries that also did this mistake in Europe. So we may wait until we can import health workers if ours are not choosing to be doctors or nurses, but we may never compete on that equation. Allow me now to shift to the area of financing. Uganda right now is spending about 30,000 shillings per person per year from the government budget. 30,000, that is about close to 100. 30,000 is what? $30, is it? 10, around 10. So about 10 is what we are spending as Uganda per person per year. Now, if you compare ourselves to the US, which spends about $7,000, you could compute that in shillings by multiplying it by 3,500. I think you will start to wonder, how does Uganda make the miracle? All of you should be dead by now if money spent was equaling how much you save. The reason I'm bringing that is to let you know that Ugandan health system is very efficient. Spending less than 10, and we still have people surviving, and we even can reduce maternal mortality and child mortality. We are magicians, not so? So we should clap for ourselves. I'm sure if Americans are watching, they will be very ashamed to see that a country like Uganda can spend 10 and don't really be very far from where the US is in terms of indicators. We should ideally be off the graph. So the point is this. There is a lot going on and being done well. We need to acknowledge. Yes, we can make it better again, but let's also be clear. There is something in history that cannot come back. Our population is growing at a rate we have never experienced. Yes, colonial days had good health systems. We were still very few. But right now, the rate at which the population grows, we cannot catch up. Even if government was able to increase the budget by doubling it every year, it will take us another 10 years before we are able to cover the rate at which the population is increasing. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to temper your expectations, but I want to let you know that we need to manage expectations. There are some fundamentals we may not do until we have corrected major errors. One of them is fertility. Uganda is known internationally as one of those, the motto is called what? For tourism. Who remembers the motto? Uganda is gifted by nature. Now, nature has gifted us, among others, with fertility. We had a minister in the past who used to say that everywhere a man throws a seed, it germinates. I don't want to think where the seed is thrown, but you can at least understand that this is both a blessing but also a curse. We really needed to work on how to make this side of giftedness not as gifted as it looks, so that we can manage. So last year, of course, or the current period, we have a budget of about 1.8 trillion. And recently we were doing some calculation and said if only we were able to cover only antenatal, delivery and infancy services required for the population, for that population, meaning mothers giving birth and children being born, at least up to 1 year, almost 80% of that money will be used up by just those two services. If you look at it from HIV, if we didn't have the support from outside, we need about 1.4 trillion compared to the 1.8 that was passed. Almost all will be eaten up. So we really need to keep our friends close. Otherwise, if they left, we have a challenge. Malaria alone. People these days think of Coatem, but actually the biggest cost is no longer Coatem. It is RDTs. You know what RDTs are? RDTs, these are the strips we use to diagnose, because for every fever, we are supposed to check whether it is malaria or not. If you computed all the fevers Ugandans are going to get in a year, and consider that you are going to use a strip for each of them, and how many times a person is going to have a fever on average, RDTs that we are going to consume in Uganda, we will finish the entire budget before we even talk about Coatem. So, we are the cream of the medical sector. We determine guidelines, we want quality, we want new technology, but we do not reconcile all these with the economy and with finance. So what I want to tell you is simply this. Unless we manage the cost of technology, unless we manage the expectations of our field, unless we manage the burden on the government, the health sector will be looked at as a bottomless pit. Because clearly what it will take for us to achieve is going to always look far beyond government's income. So my view is this. We should encourage government to be spending more money where we need prevention. IRS is one of them, mosquito nets is another. Family planning is just to be consistent. If they were spending more money there, I believe there are some areas of the burden on financing that we could be able to reduce. Currently, these areas are underinvested. Of 130 districts, I think only 20 districts have effective IRS. The good news is mosquito nets have been spread almost. Every house has one household. The challenge is that many of them don't use it. Or at least evidence is beginning to show that the use of nets is not equal to the distribution, and the gap is big. How do we improve those areas? Family planning, I was looking at the costed plan for family planning, and I was a bit interested in one statistics. by this year in that plan, we should be having about 200, about 250,000 of people using condoms. 250,000 condoms. I don't know about you, but I want to imagine that the sexual activity in the country or population of about, is it now 45 million? If we remove the young ones, we still have a big number that are sexually active. So we really need to consume more. For injectable family planning, that's where I saw about 1.7 million injections being costed for this year. So what I'm saying is that we may actually be under-financing and under-planning on this vital prevention intervention. As I wind up, prevention is beginning to be looked at as very expensive, even when we know it's not true. One time I visited northern Uganda when they were doing IRS. The people who were doing IRS were dressed like they were going on the moon. They were covering themselves to a level that if you've ever seen that Apollo 11 movie, how those guys would wear as they were going to them. That's how people in the village looked. People entering a house to spray. Imagine if they are entering your house and within a few minutes they will leave you to sleep in it. First of all, what are the optics there? These guys have covered themselves up so many layers, but for you, they leave you to sleep in the place they've fumigated. You are at risk. If I was in that community, I would not allow them to enter my house. But why is it done like that? The communities in those communities, they spray their crops with even more toxic chemicals without wearing all that fanfare. And then we come and cost and say, oh, it is so expensive to do IRS. Why? Because we've brought these standards that are really not on the ground. Standards that just make the program fail. And yet we have unemployed youth who can work at less cost. They can be protected with some small polythene caveras and turned into jackets. Have you ever seen Asians walking in the rain? They've turned the cavera, they make a suit out of it, so in the rain they just walk. These things don't cost $2. But here we are trying to make prevention very costly. When the UPDF sprayed a division here in Kampala of bed bugs, there was literally no money from the health sector. It was all voluntary labor. The army is unemployed these days, there are no wars. They can easily be called upon to contribute to society's good. We have so many redundant forces. We have so many redundant youth who can work on the price of Coca-Cola and do a lot of good in health promotion. So what I'm saying is that we really need ideas, not only money. I think if we combine out-of-box thinking and also start to put government money into more prevention and not wait donors to put money in prevention, we will be moving in the right direction. I believe I'll stop there and then the panelists will fill in the gaps I've left. I think that's what I could do in 10 minutes of time. Thank you.
Give him another round of applause. Professor Freddie Sengo of Makerere University School of Public Health. And he has opened up this discussion very well, touching so many things. If you ask me, he sort of gave us a reality check on what is happening in the health sector, the issues that are there. But one thing, if I may, before I even ask them to give us their take, what I've been able to see, the health worker in Uganda, who has not abandoned ship, who has not absconded, but working with minimal pay. I'll give an example of some hospitals where I've gone and I've seen overcrowded wards. You find one doctor, maybe one midwife, they are there. They are holding forth and they are doing their work. I gave you an example of a woman who was a midwife in the Kaladima Health Center 4 in Amuru, working on 70 mothers. She's delivering babies. She's checking their BP. She's involved in PMTC. She's not abandoning work. I think these people, Professor Singova, are not just magicians, because magicians can tell a lie. These seem to be miracle workers. Because with little pay, lives are being saved across Uganda. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. But also when you look into the hospitals, I went to one hospital not far away from Kampala, and I found that they have run out of space because they don't have running water. So what they have to do is to dig pit latrines everywhere. In fact, they are running out of space where to dig a pit latrine. You can imagine, it's a hospital. I also saw a hospital and an operating theater where the bed is stuck at an angle. I've also seen where they are using charcoal stoves because the autoclaving machines died a long time ago. They are improvising and lives are being saved. I've also seen where babies in the premature or those who need some warmth, they are still improvising. These health workers of Uganda. But when they ask that pay us more and give us more personnel, ladies and gentlemen, they are not asking for too much, are they? So I think these brilliant men and women who are here will be able to dissect the factors in the health ministry, and perhaps, like they have used the phrase from across the land, that they will make health great again. Probably when they invited the panelists, you did not know them, so I'm going to introduce them one by one so that when you have a question, you know where you are, whom you want to ask the question. I'll begin from the last, my extreme right. Vincent Okecho, Chief of Party, Strengthening Human Resource for Health Project from USAID. Next we have Joel Okulo, Chairman, Uganda Medical and Dental Practitioners Council. Next we have Millie Katana, Advocate for Health, Director Senior Support Services. Next we have Professor Francis Omaswa, Executive Director, African Center for Global Health, and formerly Executive Director, Global Health Workforce Alliance. We have Mrs. Ada Mwanga, Director, Stroke Human Resource Manager, Minister of Public Service, representing the PS, Minister of Public Service. We have Mr. Abenut Laikum Bahanu, Country Director, AMREF Health Africa. And last but not least, we have Professor Anthony Mbonye, Director General Health Services. And I introduce Professor Anthony Mbonye last because I suppose he'll be having some questions to answer, and for that matter, probably he will even speak last, after he has listened to you and the panelists. So when Professor Sengova talks about people trying to improvise, especially in the fight against malaria, spraying and all those things, if I may begin with you, Mr. Vincent Okecho, we can improvise up to what extent? Because we are dealing with health issues. If you improvise so much, then you can also cause a danger.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. First of all, I would like to say that we have issues with the health workforce in this country, and one key issue is in ensuring that we have the right number and the right competence out there. And that is an issue that brings about the improvision. Some people have to do what they are not expected to do sometimes. They don't know what to do very well, but they are finding themselves having to do it. And that has, of course, challenges that the quality of care is then poor and puts our people in danger, puts the life of our people in danger. And apart from the fact that they need supplies and equipment, they also need to be in the right numbers and skill mix. Our supply numbers are increasing. However, there's a mismatch between what we are producing and what is really needed. For example, as Professor Eddie was saying, we have many comprehensive nurses who are not employed in thousands, while we are short of anesthetic officers, and we are short of midwives, and so on. It means that our supply is not well managed, is not well projected, is not well targeted. And the second reason, of course, of that is that we do not have well-planned health workforce. Although we have a a 15-year strategic plan that we was alluding to, it is old now, but also it is not necessarily followed in the way we develop our health workforce. And this creates shortage. And again, as he said, even when we produce, we delay to take up those who qualify because of lack of wage. And therefore they find alternative ways of survival. They go into other occupations other than health.
But I also gather that you are into strengthening human resource for health, supported by USAID. So where exactly is that strengthening going?
Yes, we are working to strengthen supply system. We want to harness both public and private sector capacity to produce health workers for this country. We are looking at curricula that are old. We are revising them and updating them. We are retraining and retooling the tutors so that they can effectively deliver those curricula. And we are equipping some of the schools that we prioritize for critical cadres, clinical officers, nurses, midwives, and anesthetic officers with some equipment and books. And we are also looking at improving financing of training through limited scholarship, thereby providing some money for the schools to be able to buy what they need most. In that way, we are trying to improve the quality and also rearranging the enrollment so that we focus more on priority cadres that we need most.
Thank you, Vincent. Give Vincent a round of applause. And if I may come to you, Joel, because he talked about retooling and equipping, sort of retraining the health workers. We also know that there's an increasing number of medical schools in Uganda. But why do we see a declining sort of quality? Yet the numbers are many. About 30, 40 years ago, there was only one medical school in Uganda. Now there are many. What has happened to the quality?
Thank you, Chair, and the members. Sorry about my voice. I think let me step back and just give you a brief history of myself. For over 30 years, I was training at the medical school, and my area was renal physiology. In fact, when I go throughout the region, I get students who said, "You were my teacher, and you taught me physiology, renal physiology." Why renal physiology? This is a small organ, about 150 grams, but which is very busy and very organized. And that is the organ that keeps many of us alive. And I learned a lot from that area. And when I went to the Regional Center for Quality of Healthcare, I found this term quality, which I had never heard of in my training. And it gave me a completely new dimension as to how we should be trained and how we should be practicing. And then I found myself as the chairman of the Uganda Medical and Dental Practitioners Council. And one of our biggest activity is regulating training. And when I got on board, I did realize that we have got major issues in production of doctors. Not just numbers, but quality. And this was a very big eye-opener. Now, I have traveled through the East African region, inspecting various medical schools to see how their curricula work and how they train doctors. I've visited 27 medical schools in the region, and one thing that comes out quite clearly is that the standard of training has gone down.
Why?
Gone down, I'm coming.
Okay.
It's gone down. Gone down for very many reasons. One, of course, is the infrastructure. The other, and most important, is the manpower. We have in many universities, especially in the basic sciences, where I belong, where basic sciences are very, very poorly understaffed. And if you get the basics wrong, the rest of the work that you are going to do is going to be wrong. The Bible talks about foundation and how you should build your foundation so that when rain comes, it doesn't get washed away. Unfortunately, many of our foundations that we have now, when the rain comes, they're washed away. In the basic sciences, if you meet somebody who is in the clinical sciences, they'll say, but what sort of people are you sending to us? It's because we have got terrible shortage in the basic sciences. We have got universities which have started in this country where you find the head of department, say, of anatomy, is the dean, is the principal, is the head of department, and so on and so forth. And then you find he's not only the head of department there, he's also head of department in another university. And these are things that really undermine the standards of training. So yes, we have got a number of medical schools. We have got now a total of 7. But as I said, the quality of the product we still have to assess. But definitely, it is not to the level at which some of us were trained. We are training them, and the problem is, where are they? We have in this country about 5,000 doctors registered, but the ones who are practicing is only about 3,000. Where have the rest gone? If you remember that song, Where Have All the Flowers Gone? We do not know where they are. Some have left the profession altogether, like the niece of Sengoba, who says, I don't want to continue in the profession. Others have joined other non-medical practices in this country, and a good number have left this country to our neighboring countries. Rwanda is a beneficiary, Kenya is a beneficiary, Botswana is a beneficiary, South Africa is a beneficiary, UK, and USA. So we are losing about 150 doctors per year from our fold. But worse still, even the about 500 whom we produce in a year, we do not employ all of them. And again, that contributes seriously to the understaffing of the health facilities. I could go on, but really the problem is big, and problem starts at the point of production.
Thank you.
I hear my friend here talking about retraining. Now, if you have got the first training wrong, the retraining that you are going to do is not going to perfect what you had got before. So my appeal is that I think we must relook at the retraining, relook at the staffing of retraining, and more importantly, look at the curriculum. One of our responsibilities is to review the curriculum, and we are suggesting that we must shift seriously from the current curriculum that we are implementing, where prevention or public health is given very little attention. In my time, in fact, when we were trained, the 4th year when we do public health was a period of rest, where you go and ride a bicycle in the village, drink whatever is offered in there. And I don't think it has changed much. And I'm saying I think we should relook at the curriculum and say, for the first time, what is the kind of doctor that we want to produce? I don't think anybody has asked this question. What is the kind of doctor we want to produce for this country? If we have got that right, then we can be able to mobilize the resources that is required to be able to train the doctor that we want. Because the doctor that we want is not the same as the doctor that USA wants. Although when we train them, they're able to go there because we are actually using their curriculum. So they find it easy to fit in there. But my assertion is that let us define the doctor that we want and make the resources available. I want to agree with the minister when she spoke this morning. And she said this: we know the problem. We know the magnitude. We know the frequency. We know the complexity. We know the root cause. We know the remedies. Why are we not doing something about it? I think that is a question that we should be able to answer. But just to conclude, I want to say that the doctors of this country, the medical workers of this country are the unsung heroes. We are always giving heroes medals and so on and so forth, but I think the people who deserve those heroes are the doctors and the medical workers of this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe also talked about the need for the quality of the training they are getting. And for that matter, I'm going to jump to Ida Mwanga, because she's the Director, Human Resource Manager and at the Ministry of Public Service, because they are in the business of employing, of recruiting, and sending them to different hospitals. But if these people they are sending are wanting, then what do we need to do before you send them? I have seen a WhatsApp group where some medical doctors were saying that I've heard of a job at KCCA, I want to apply as a driver. I want to apply as an office attendant. It may sound like a joke, but it's real, because they are talking about the kind of pay, the disparity of pay a medical doctor is getting, and maybe somebody working in an authority is saying. So in this discussion, they are saying, tell me as a medical doctor, where I can work as a driver. If the pay is better, then I'll go. So these are issues of pay, and they are serious, even though they seem to be joking, but they are communicating to us. Madam Mwanga, so how do you arrive at the decision of sending some of these personnel, but yet the experts are saying they are really lacking in some areas?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Excuse me, I'm just recovering from a cough, so my voice is not the real one. But I'm safe with the medical people around me here. They can advise me later.
The miracle workers are here.
Yes. I'd like to congratulate the sector for that, what was termed as magical performance amidst low pay. And the moderator actually corrected it to say it is not magical, it is real. It shows a lot of commitment on your side, a lot of love for your country, and those are the attributes we really need to develop as leaders in this country. Thank you very much. Now, as you know, the Ministry of Public Service, rightly so, as he says, is the human resource manager of the service. So I'll talk about the structures and staffing levels, but also the pay issues you're talking about. We all know that the issue of inadequate pay is real in the current economic situation, but we must also appreciate that the health workers have had some preferential treatment, them being categorized under the professionals. I'll give an example. A fresh graduate medical officer receives 1.3 million shillings per month. Yes. That includes the lunch allowance. A medical officer, fresh graduate, yes. It's gross, yes. We normally quote gross.
What is the take home, if you may?
Now,
just
when you compare that one to the equivalent on the other side, the administrative, the fresh graduate receives about 600,000 on the administrative side. When you look at a certificate holder in the medical, they receive about 550,000 Uganda shillings per month, and the other ones, on the other side, the certificate holders receive about 350,000. So what I'm saying is that yes, the issue of inadequacy is there, but we should also appreciate that little. It may not be good enough, but we should appreciate it. That being said, we note a lot of disparities. That has been noted from the government side. You've talked about the driver under KCCA receiving more than an officer, say in the medical profession. And of recent, you heard the President, His Excellency the President, has guided that we harmonize pay across all government services, including agencies, that is ministries, departments, local governments, and agencies. The agencies come in place by acts of parliament, and they are empowered to determine their own terms and conditions of service. And I think that's where the problem came about. But now, under harmonization, it would mean that size structures are determined centrally and they are harmonized across the service. So the issue we are quoting, Mr. Moderator, if government approves what we are now preparing, because we are given a deadline by October, end of October, to have completed our proposals and submitted to Cabinet, then that situation will not arise anymore.
Are you suggesting that the 1.3 you are paying the medical officer in a hospital is sufficient?
No.
Okay. Are you also aware that that medical worker is putting in more than 8 hours, working long hours, is on call 24/7, and perhaps, if I may also add, and perhaps there are no tools to use in the hospital?
Mr. Moderator, I did not deny the inadequacy, and that's where I started from. But I was only talking about that preferential treatment that we should appreciate. It might be little. I just wanted to compare that they are better paid than the counterparts in the administrative cadre. Besides that, the ministry went ahead government went ahead and approved 1.5 million shillings to medical officers at health center force. That is being received on a monthly basis. And of course, you are all aware about the hard-to-reach allowance in hard-to-reach areas. It's not received by everybody, but that is a 30% of the salary of any employee who's working in hard-to-reach areas, including the health workers. Now, when it comes to staffing, we did a quick run-through before we came here this afternoon because we knew that the issue of staffing would come up. Surprisingly, we are not doing very badly. Overall staffing levels for health professionals stand at 78.84% across the country. Now, when you break it, where we are doing badly is at regional referral hospitals, which is at 46.34%, and general hospitals at 39.26%. I think that is where we should focus our efforts in the future. Otherwise, we are not really doing badly. In national referral hospitals, we are at 91.95. When you look at individual, cadres, the clinic officers, we are almost at 100% staffed, laboratory staff at 93.37, nursing cadre at 86.9. At the National Referral Hospital? Across. Midwifery at 79.5%, theatre staff at 71.88. So the challenge is actually for us, together with the sector, to look at where are we doing badly. And I've pointed out the general hospitals and the regional referral hospitals. So we need to focus our efforts there. Now, talking about staffing norms and staffing levels, there's a thinking that restructuring and determining staff levels is a permanent solution. Restructuring and determining staffing levels should be a continuous process, because when things change, then the staffing levels should change. And that comes from the onus is on the sector. The onus is on the sector working together with the Ministry of Public Service to bring it out. For example, the previous speaker talked about focusing on preventive methods. So what does that, what is the implication of the new innovations to staffing?
Okay, if I may, if I may also join with another question there. How are you working with the District Service Commission in recruitment? Because I understand the local government sometimes they also do the recruitment, and there are some key positions they want to hold for their daughters and sons, and sometimes they may not have those particular skills, and you find that those vacancies are empty, Madam.
Daughters and sons are not part of our policies. human resource policies. We set the job descriptions, we set the job specifications, which must be followed by the district service commissions and also the national service commission.
Do they follow it?
If it is not followed, it is not reported. Yes, it is not. It can be reported in terms of rumors, but if there is no evidence, then we cannot follow it up. Again, the onus is on the sector to follow and give evidence, and then that can be followed up. You know, we are interested in talking, sons and daughters of the soil, but nobody comes out to pin somebody to say this is the fact. But however, sons and daughters are not part of our HR policies in terms of recruitment. He talked about the mismatch of what is produced and what is absorbed. For sure, this has happened, yes, but I have been thinking it is a result of working in silos. If we can work together before any program is introduced, say in the health sector, who are the stakeholders? Can we work together? Is there a need? First of all, the stakeholders must agree. After that, if there is a need, how are we going to deploy these people? It's an important issue to agree on before even the program starts. But what is happening is that the program starts, the graduates come out, and they are floating because no adequate planning was undertaken. So my call is that we need to work together before the programs are introduced. I think I've talked about pay. You talked about training. The Ministry of Health, I think I'll leave that to the Ministry of Health because in the public service, every cadre has a parent ministry, and the health professionals, their parent is Ministry of Health, which should be looking at their professional development. For us, we put in place a training policy which should be followed as health workers are being trained. But I must say that in this country, we've been doing actually a study. We did a study in 1998 and recently confirmed that actually our people are highly qualified. A lot of training has been taking place. So probably it is an issue of deployment, it's an issue of pay, which I said is being worked on, and I hope that next year it could be a better story.
Okay.
So I'll leave that to Ministry of Health to respond to in terms of training. Mr. Moderator, for now I can stop there.
Thank you very much. Give her a round of applause. Director, Human Resource at the Ministry of Public Service. And I think, of course, some questions will maybe come back to you, but you have also indicated that the Ministry of Health will respond to some of those issues. The gentleman seated on your right side, I think, understand the health sector in Uganda very well, having formerly worked as the Executive Director of Global Health Workforce Alliance, but also currently Professor Francis Omaswa is the ED Africa Center for Global Health. Are our problems peculiar to us in Uganda, or this cuts across? If you were to diagnose them, what kind of diagnosis would you make for Uganda's health problems?
Thank you, Patrick. It's a very well put question, and congratulations. Globally, there is a huge shortage of health workers. It is expected that between now and 2030, we will need 40 million extra health workers globally, and 18 million of those will be in Africa. Over the last 10 years, the health workforce densities in Africa have not changed, despite a huge campaign. So the main point is that we in Africa, including Uganda, are still not producing and deploying the required number of health workers for us to achieve SDGs. Since we are short of time, let me propose 3 levels of action that Uganda should take. And this is based on making Uganda health system great again. And from here, we should just not end up talking. We should go away from here with an action plan. which starts to be implemented immediately. Number one, the health sector in Uganda for a long time has been classified as a consumptive sector by the financiers. We need to move away from this. The United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, as he was leaving, he set up a commission on health, employment, and economic growth. What has come out of this commission is the fact that the health sector is a service sector. It is a sector which employs. In Germany, for example, 30% of the German GDP is contributed to by the health sector. So just employing nurses, they are paying taxes, they are feeding their children, that is part of economic growth. So we need in Uganda to move away from classifying the health sector as a consumptive sector and a priority sector. Mugabe is in big trouble in Zimbabwe, economic trouble. But still, we were there last week at the regional meeting of health ministers. Zimbabwe's health expenditure, in spite of their huge problems, is still big because it's committed. When you make a phone call in Zimbabwe, 5 cents, American cents of that call goes to the health sector. And 2% of all VAT goes for HIV. So I think if there is committed political leadership supporting a health transformation in Uganda, we can do it. So let's advocate for that. Number two, we need to work across sectors. So we would recommend, and this is recommended by WHO, we should have a committee in Uganda here. It's called Country Coordination and Facilitation. That is to say, Ministry of Public Service, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, professional associations like UMA should have a body which does the workforce planning for the country. And it is that body which also determines competencies which are needed, in which numbers. And it is that body that also determines the budget which should go into employing these health workers. So let's create that body in Uganda. Let's resolve to create that body in Uganda. My last point, management and governance of health workforce. It's a big, weak problem here, very big. Madam Director from Ministry of Public Service, if you look at the structure of the personnel department in the Ministry of Health, which might have been prescribed by you or what, there is not a single person with skills for health workforce planning. Not a single person. Please, Edward, just stand up. I want to use this to illustrate the point strongly. When I was Director General of Health Services, we had an Assistant Commissioner for Health Workforce Development. That gentleman there, Dr. Kanyesiji. He has never been replaced for the last, is it 15 years? 20 years. So that is a very, very serious flaw. That is why interns are not taken care of. SHOs are on strike. Kanyesije was attending interns meetings, he was planning for SHOs, so can we change that? Then two, local government. Punireta, you were very right to talk about local governments because they have the mandate to recruit and employ and deploy all decentralized health workers. I would like to see a re-centralization of the recruitment of health workers so that they can be distributed in a common pool. Some districts are unpopular. Some, all those our sons things are happening. So I would like to recommend that. So those are my 3 points. Advocacy for health as a priority for the country, a body which coordinates all health workforce planning in the country, that office in the Ministry of Health. Please create it tomorrow or today, and then re-centralize health services management. Thank you, sir.
Give him a round of applause. Professor Francis Omaswa. And let me maybe bring in Emile Katana here, because some people talk about
News Updates is brought to you by
Plascon. Color your world. Plascon for over 55 years. The same products you've trusted to color your world, but now with a new name. Plascon, color your world.
Coke Studio Africa is back, and it's bigger than ever.
And we make magic in the studio.
Let's do it. Over 60 artists from 20 different countries will come together to create the hottest music in Africa, right in front of your eyes.
Coke Studio Africa, hold on.
Discover the new sound of Africa. This is where music meets. The all-new season of Coke Studio Africa.
We know we'll get straight A's need better days. On those days I worry, my mind's so blurry. Studied every chapter, still can't find the answer. Always Ultra has a soft light, cotton top layer, and absorbs up to 3 times more. No stay, no chat. I know I'll get straight A's need better days. Always straight A's, our future starts today.
Smile your way back to school with Always at 5,000 shillings only.
Mujawali, I'm helping Ugandans make the smart choice. Why choose this powder? It cleans just like any other ordinary detergent. Aereo gives you better stain removal in one wash, even with less powder. It can't be. Observe grass, tea, and chocolate drink. I'll need 1, 2 handfuls. And just 1 handful of Aereo. See? Better stain removal with only 1 wash. It's the smart choice for sure. Aereo removes tough stains in 1 wash.
Watch the beat come to life on the all-new season of Coke Studio Africa. Launches in September.
Thank you very much. Let me come to you, Abenate from AMREF, because I suppose you're sort of also playing a supporting role to the health sector. And do you find a good partner in the Ministry of Health as you do your supporting role? Or maybe you put in the support, but somehow you are adding on, in some cases, the incompetence that people have talked about? What do you see?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I appreciate for the question. Of course, you know, when it comes to partnering with the government, you know, AMREF has been indigenous to Africa, and for the last 6 years, we've been working in different African countries, and we've been establishing a good partnership with the government office, be it from regional to national, and level partnership is very strong. So, in my view, I mean, you know, there is a good environment that really allows non-governmental organizations to partners with the governments, and also do, I mean, you know, contribute to enhance the health system in the country. I mean, you know, to mention some, AMREF has been working with the Ministry of Health, and we are a permanent member for health policy and an advisory committee at the park level. And we've been also closely working with the regional offices and DHOs. And I feel like there is a good environment that allows and fosters partnership. I think the main issue around here is we know that the demand is very huge, and the supply side is always challenging, and health is not something that we can leave alone for the governments, and partnership is a key issue that we need to work on. Of course, it's not only unique in Uganda, but in most African countries, the capability is still very low, and we need to invest to strengthen that.
Okay, Mr. Aben, we have a very bad statistics that is read to us most of the time, that 16 mothers die every day due to pregnancy-related complications. And sometimes we can use that number and we think it's just a number. But when you look back, you find among those 16 women who are going to die today, they are somebody's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's aunt, someone's friend. They are just looking at the number. It's not a number, 16. But if I may ask, how is the lack of financing affecting the reproductive health in Uganda and maybe in the region?
I think, there is always a chronic shortfall of investing in health sector. And it is also obvious to all of us that in 2000 in Abuja, the African governments tried to commit themselves to at least to set aside 15% of the national budget to the health sector, but which is not really happening in most African countries. The same is also true here in Uganda. So the investment in health sector in Uganda is between 6 to 9%. And
yet they are committed to the Abuja declaration of 15%.
Yeah, not only Ugandan government, but most African government has committed in Abuja declaration to invest on 15% of the national budget. But of course, we know that, the governments in African countries also have been encountered multifaceted problems. So the population growth is very high. Investment in social sector like education and health, among other things, is also very demanding. So we do understand the stretch that we are seeing in the governments, but we are still advocating as an AMREF to improve the investments in health sector.
Okay, thank you very much. Give him a round of applause. And the next panelist to speak to us, I think he has enough shock absorbers to absorb all this, because he's from the ministry, and I suppose he's a man with a wealth of experience, because he's Director General Health Services, Professor Anthony Mbonye. You've listened to some of the medical doctors and your colleagues. In fact, Professor Francis Omar's prescription was political commitment is needed. And then you have heard from the gentleman from AMREF saying we have not lived by the declaration for which we signed, the Abuja declaration of 15%. And then you've heard the 1.3 million shillings, somebody saying that is an insult. I know you have taken in so much. So how would you, hearing the prescription, would you take that prescription?
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for those questions, and I want to thank the panelists for the brilliant ideas that you have put forward. And also the compliments to the achievements of the health sector. One is that the health sector worked together with other sectors in a government. And if I can inform you is that today we had a budget conference in Serena. And what the budget conference is all about is to bring all the sectors together, identify government priorities, and then declare what we call ceilings. In Uganda, we work in a medium-term expenditure framework, where government looks at all parameters of the economy and tries to stabilize what they call macroeconomic structures. And because of these ceilings, each sector is given a certain amount of money, and they say you must spend within that ceiling. This current financial year, health sector was given 6.4% of the national budget. 6.4%. And the target of 15%, that is almost about a third of what we expect. I want to agree that if we are to revamp the health sector, we need to look at issues of human resource, we need to look at issues of finance, but I want to agree with Professor Maswa that we need to look at issues of leadership and governance. And I want to add the third word, accountability. And the fourth, responsibility. among ourselves as individuals, as doctors, but also as institutions. We are addressing the issue of human resource, and the Director of Human Resource from Public Service has given you the figures. We are doing well in terms of staffing, but as Dr. Kecho has said, we need to have the right numbers, but also the right mix of skills. And in the Ministry of Health, we have a new structure approved by Cabinet last financial year, and we are implementing it. We have a Department of Quality Assurance and Inspection, and we have recently recruited a commissioner to head it. We have also worked closely with the WHO to develop supervision guidelines, and we are soon passing them, and we shall implement them. All this is to make sure that we deliver services that are of value.
Mr. Director General, are you aware that in some hospitals in Uganda, doctors improvise and use charcoal stoves right at the entrance of an operating theater for sterilizing equipment?
I'm aware.
Okay.
And quality of care is the issue, because also we have data that we have equipment in health facilities and hospitals which is not used, and this equipment includes autoclaves, BP machines, and others. And all this is about leadership, governance, and making sure we have quality of care. As far as human resource, I was coming to that, is that we have now almost the numbers. We need to make sure that they have the skills. And we need to make sure that we mentor them and we supervise them so that we can improve quality of care. As you are aware, we are renovating health facilities, expanding them, and in every facility that we expand, we put accommodation for staff to address the issue of staff motivation. We are doing that in the Karamoja region and in every region where we are expanding and renovating our health facilities. We have also scholarships in the Ministry of Health under the Director Planning and Development, and Intra-Health is helping us, and BTC, to make sure. And we are targeting some of the special areas like ophthalmology, anesthesia, pathology, which really many people do not want to go to because of lack of sponsorship. We are working closely with the Ministry of Education. We have a task force to address the issue of training of senior health officers. The support to the senior health officers in terms of funding, but also the deployment and all issues surrounding their working environment. We have a task force, and Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Local Government, and other stakeholders and members of that task force. I am very happy about the discussion on prevention. At the beginning of this financial year, we agreed with the President on 23 strategic directions, and one of them is putting our resources more on prevention. As you know, we have been distributing 24 million nets. This is the second net distribution. The first one was in 2013, and we have managed to reduce malaria prevalence from 45% among children aged 5 years to 19%. And with this distribution of more 24 nets, we are looking at reducing the prevalence of malaria to less than 10%. And I'm hopeful we shall make savings as a health sector and contribute to economic development. There is the issue Professor Maswa has brought up about health sector being seen as a consumption sector. I totally agree with you, Professor Maswa. I know the economists think that when they spend on the health sector, this is consumption. It does not lead to savings, profit, and all that. But it is the story of the egg and chicken, which starts first. Is it health? Is it economic development? But to all of us, I think it is obvious that we have to be healthy in order to contribute to economic development. But the issue of advocacy is very important. We have to advocate because we are competing with other sectors. If you don't advocate with figures, we need to have figures. We need to put our case right. Then people who have figures who are smarter at negotiations will always get a bigger cake. I want to appreciate the issue of partnerships. We cannot do it alone in the health sector, and I want to thank you, Director, from Public Service, for saying we need to work together. Definitely, the determinants of health are outside. Most of them are outside the health sector. Poverty, total fertility, gender issues, cultural issues that affect health seeking. We need to work with the Ministry of Gender, we need to work with the Ministry of Education, we need to work with the Ministry of Local Government, we need to work with the Ministry of Finance and other sectors to make sure that we address these determinants of health. So partnerships are very important. I want to say that the Assistant Commissioner Human Resource Development has not been replaced for the last 20 years. It is unfortunate because we have had a lot of struggle with the approval of our structure, but now it has been it has been approved by Cabinet. We have a Commissioner Human Resource, and under the Commissioner Human Resource there is Assistant Commissioner Human Resource Development. So we are waiting to, we are about to declare this post to public service, and I hope Director, when we declare, do the needful so that the next annual general meeting we have what to report on this one. I want to appreciate Mire Katana for advocating for the remuneration of the health workers. Definitely we have discussed with the President. For some of you, Dr. Biso, you were in State House sometime last year, and the President acknowledged that health workers should be paid well, better than what they are paid now. And we are looking at discussing with him, since he appreciates, and we see how we can improve the pay of the health workers. I want to say that as a sector, we are happy to continue working with the associations, Uganda Medical Association and other associations, to make sure that we have a uniform stand on how we address the welfare of health workers, but also how we can contribute to quality of care and make the health sector great once again.
Thank you very much. Give Professor Mbonye a round of applause that is big, because he has taken over has to take in so many questions and he has handled them. But one thing I've realized, that these gentlemen and ladies, they all mean well. Everything sounds okay. We seem to be, we know where we want to be. They know the problem. They know what the solutions can be. I'm wondering why we never seem to really get those solutions. But again, clap for them. And this is what is going to happen. My colleague Sheila Nduhuchire is going to come here and call the other set of panelists to continue with the discussion on a different topic, so that all the questions that you have, you'll be able to ask them at the end. I suppose Professor Mbonye will be staying, because even the issues that will come in the next topic will need to be answered by him. And please, again, give a round of applause to our panelists. Sheila Nduhuchire.
Yes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
I know these hours are very, very bad for anybody to moderate, but I trust that you're going to give us the maximum audience and attention. Thank you so much. Even naturally, the evening of somebody's lifetime is usually, that's when the curve sort of goes down, and yeah, but I'll really cut through to I'll cut straight to our panel this evening. Our second panel, I'll request Dr. Sarah Biachika, a Commissioner of Planning in the Ministry of Health, to come and please join us here. I'll also request the Executive Director, Health Consumer Advocates, Ms. Millie Katana, who is already here. She's going to stay for the second panel. I'll also request the Director, the African Center for Global Health and Social Transformation, Dr. Patrick Kadama. Please come forward. Professor Frederick Sengoba, who was here earlier, if you could just come back. He's a health policy analyst, health policy and planning at Makerere University. Okay, and my name is Shiran Duhuchre. I work with NTV Uganda as a news reporter and news anchor. Tonight, or this evening, we're going to be discussing health financing and other aspects of the health system, which includes medicine supplies, health unit functioning, and other things, the software and the hardware of health in this country. And I have such a great panel who is going to help me run through this topic. Okay, thank you so much. I have two, and of course, Dr. Mbonye has also stayed, the Director General in the Ministry of Health. Thank you so much, our dear panelists. I'll start with Dr. Sarah Biachika. We have limited time, so we're going to just be as brief as possible so as to extract as much information from all of you. Dr. Sarah Biachika, you're a Commissioner of Planning in the Ministry of Health. And yet, for the better part of this day, of this morning or this afternoon, we've had a lot of concerns from people that presented different statistics. We also heard from Professor Frederick Sengoba, who said that Uganda spends $10 annually on its citizens. You know, if you were to compare again, like he said, with USA, they spend $7,000. Why aren't we planning well enough for our population in terms of health and access to good quality health? Dr. Sarah.
Yes, thank you very much, Sheila. The question is, why aren't we planning very well for our people? I would like to say that as a health sector or Ministry of Health and the broader government, we have in place plans that are for this country. Specifically, I would refer to the National Development Plan, currently the second National Development Plan, which is our overall guiding document. And from the National Development Plan, we see that as a country, we are aspiring at achieving a middle income status. And in that, it is not only economically, but we are also looking at other social components of the country, including health. So in that line, as Ministry of Health, we have also elaborated a 5-year health sector development plan, which is quite comprehensive and aligned to the National Development Plan, as well as to other global initiatives like the Sustainable Development Goals. So we also have the National Health Policy in place, which guides all other strategies within the sector. So when it comes to planning, I would say we have good plans in place. We have elaborate plans. We have communicated these plans to all our stakeholders so that as they come to implement or to support implementation, we all have the same goals. And currently our goal is to contribute towards achieving universal health coverage.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. I'm just wondering why you say we have very good plans. Nobody, doubts that. But how come we never see these plans implemented? Maybe it will be for Dr. Mbonye, but why is that so? $10 per person? We were the least East African country that spent on health expenditure. The rest are spending quite well. What does that say? And why are those plans that you talk about not implemented?
Thank you very much. As I've mentioned, those plans are actually costed. And now the issue is to implement, you need inputs. And one of the inputs here we are talking about specifically for this session is the financing. So our current plan is well costed, but when you look at the interventions that we plan to implement, when you look at the resource envelope, you find that currently what we have is only equivalent of US dollars 53 per capita out of the recommended 84 US dollars per capita to be able to implement the basic package that we have planned. So the issue is inadequate resources for us to implement those plans.
Good. What's happening? Okay. Dr. Mbonye, Uganda's health relies heavily on donor funding or external resources. And as a matter of fact, I think we rely on 41% of our health expenditure is supported by donors. If one day we woke up or we wake up, God forbid, and the donors have tied or closed the financial taps, what other mechanisms do you as the Ministry of Health have to fill in the gaps that Dr. Sarah talks about?
Thanks, Shira. One is that the first thing is to work very well with the development partners so that they don't run away.
And let me just interject there, because the funding has actually been going down for the last 5 years.
That's true.
Yeah. So there are no guarantees here.
The issue is transparency when you are dealing with any partner, so that you increase efficiency of resources. But really, that was just.
Yeah.
But the main thing is to make sure that government continues increasing allocation to the health sector from our own domestic resources. And we can do that by demonstrating efficiency of how we use these resources and demonstrating results. We are now, as a sector, moving to results-based financing. You demonstrate results, then you get funding. And you demonstrate more results, you get more funding. That's the direction we are going to. And so that's one. Another one is the National Health Insurance Scheme. Making sure we get a scheme where all Ugandans, and if we are to achieve universal coverage, as Professor Sengova said, we need to have this National Health Insurance Scheme implemented, so that, and this is going to be funded by government and also individuals.
The early morning again, I'm really sorry I'm cutting you short, because we're on live TV and any time from now we'll be going off. So I want us to be able to capture as much information for our home audience as possible. The early morning presenters here said that this National Health Insurance Scheme bill has been in the offing, has been on our shelves for close to 3 decades. What new assurances are you giving us?
Now we have got a certificate of financial implication from Minister of Finance to be tabled in Cabinet and then to the first Parliamentary Council, and we are hopeful that the next financial year we may have this National Health Insurance Scheme with us. Yeah.
There's a voice out there. Somebody's saying something? Okay, Professor Sengova, I mean, we cannot discuss health financing without talking about how much money goes to our foot soldiers, the doctors, nurses, the VHTs who are out there ensuring that we actually have a sustainable health system. You posed a question earlier on and said that most people are caught absent at the different health workers, at the different health stations, because they've gone to look for an extra dollar. And you said, should they be criminalized for that? Would you, or how would you propose that these doctors or these nurses or these foot soldiers really out there can be better remunerated? especially given how the president has been his tone lately, that health has also been catered for in constructing roads. So we probably may not see an increment very soon in our health budget.
Thank you, Shira, for that question. It's actually a very important question in two ways. Currently, if you look at how the little money that the health gets and see how much it is spent upstream versus downstream, you may find that we need to do more to direct funds to the downstream. This is how, because I think even it was said in the last panel, if you look at where the workforce or establishments are full, you find all regional hospitals are doing very well. National level institutions are almost all full. The further you go down the delivery channel of health services, that's where you find the biggest gaps of unfilled posts. You find lost skills or missing skills. So as we try to develop the entire delivery system, we want to see that we can at least try over time. I'm not saying we take away from these institutions so that we boost the bottom, because again there will be some lack of imbalances in referral. But as we were promised in the morning that there's going to be more affirmative action for health in the upcoming years in the budget, I think it is important that we actually make sure more money flows.
How do we do that, Professor?
One of it is to ensure that the gaps at those levels in staffing are corrected. Currently, they suffer almost 30–40% of gaps at that level. But also, if you look at the actual delivery of ingredients, that's where improvisation is highest. Many of you and the media captures this a lot. Sometimes, if you have a few workers, sometimes even the gatekeeper comes in to help. So the issue is, how do we ensure that even the medicines that go there are actually sufficient? I have a report from the media that I cut and put on my wall. It is this community seeing a truck full of medicines, boxes of medicines. But after a week or two, the medicines are said to be empty. They are finished. And the community says, such a big truck coming to our village, how come the medicines are finished within a week? And I think these are issues around when we take these big trucks in the community. We need some accountability, as the DG said. People should open and people should see what is in those boxes, so that at the end of the day, the health workers don't have to run away from communities that are very annoyed that these people have stolen all the drugs that were just delivered. Because sometimes actually it wasn't all medicines in the box. It was just big box carrying very little inside. The reason I'm using that is because the media followed it, but I've also seen it personally. But health workers are improvising. Now we have Ebola. Many of them are dying of this because they are not using gloves. They are not used to using them. Even when you tell them now we have a problem, try to use gloves. Even the people in the room here, many of them will say, me, I always put a drip without a glove. And before you know it, they are sick. So improvisation is key down there, but we need to take more gloves, more uniforms, more tools. And I think that is key, because if we are trying to improve coverage, we cannot improve coverage by investing upstream and leaving frontline health workers more needy.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me rope you in, Miss Nakaima Milikatana. Where did I get Nakaima from? Miss Milikatana, you are a well-known advocate of health client or consumer. You're an advocate of health-consumer relationship, and you've been speaking very strongly against HIV and other things. But I would just wanted to ask you on what Professor Sengoba just said there, that oftentimes the consumer, or me as a taxpayer, I pay heavily, and the statistics have been quoted for us here in the morning, 41% again, I think, out of pocket. Very, very heavy. Government only spends probably 15%, you can correct me. Less than 15%. Are these consumers that you've been speaking for very passionately getting value for their money?
I think national health insurance, centrally funded health expenditure. We need to do better as health service providers in getting the consumers the real value of what they consume. Why am I saying this? More than 50% of the investment in healthcare is actually borne by me and you as the consumers for healthcare. It's like any other investment. If I go to buy a dress, the person at the boutique must show me around, and I appreciate the different styles so that I make the best informed decision about the dress that I'm buying. And so should be with healthcare. Remember, we had this morning, I think, from the minister that for most of the households, more than 22% of their incomes actually go to financing healthcare. So we need to be doing better. To answer your question directly, we are not getting the value of our investment in healthcare. And my appeal to you as an advocate, as an activist, please, healthcare workers, explain to us what you are doing to us so that we make the best informed decisions about our consumption of the services that you provide.
Are you saying they're not doing that now? Well, could you expound on what you're saying?
I fully understand there are major limitations. If the previous moderator, as was saying, there was this midwife who sees 70 mothers. They may not have the time to spend to explain all the procedures to this mother, but to the best of your ability, please try to explain what you are doing so that the beneficiaries appreciate why they are getting this service and not the other.
Okay, Dr. Kadama, you are the director of the African Center for Global Health and Social Transformation. Goal number 3 of the SDGs now is attainment of access to health, yeah? I'm just paraphrasing that really. And one of those sub-goals is attainment of the universal health care. We have a plan as a country, like Dr. Mbonye said, of the National Health Insurance Scheme. Is it viable? Is it attainable that the larger population, which is the larger population, which is the informal sector, will be benefiting from the smaller population, which is the working class, to pay for the biggest chunk of the NHIS, if it is indeed effected? Is it viable, or are we just, chasing rain?
Thank you very much. It's a big question. The third SDG is to do with health and well-being. It was very simply framed so that can remain in our minds.
Could you just please move closer to the mic, please?
Sorry. I was just explaining that the third SDG, the social, sustainable development goal, is to do with the health and well-being. And like I've explained before, the concept of health is broad. And the whole purpose of all our economic endeavor is to live well and be healthy. You are not earning money or doing anything to do anything. It is because you want to live well and live in a healthy situation. Now, universal health coverage in the same context is very broad. It is broader than health financing. We know that on one side of the Atlantic, health financing is all that comprises universal health coverage, but that's a different debate. The debate generally is to do with universal health coverage in all its dimensions, the dimensions of access to health services, dimensions of access to skilled care, access to medical technologies and pharmaceuticals, access to fair financing, and access to social protection, social safety nets. Now, if that is to be attained, it is a goal that requires a multi-sectoral approach. It is a goal that will require us to change how we view and deliver programs. Programs have traditionally been delivered through what we call vertical platforms, which are to do more or less with emergency situations, because poor countries have been viewed as countries in crisis, country where you have to do pragmatic things, deliver things in fragmented small programs. This has to change if we are to move towards the goal number 3. UHC, by and large, is a vehicle. It is not an end in itself. It is a means to an end. And UHC is a means for us to attain equity in health outcomes. The whole purpose of delivering a broad program, universally accessible to all, is for us to attain health outcomes that are commensurate with our needs, and not merely to put in place universal health care. Universal health coverage is really just the means to it. The challenges we have with coming in with what you call pooled programs is to clearly have a debate that is broad across society and people understand what choice they are making. First, what is the purpose of, say, introducing a health insurance scheme in this country? What are the issues? We have no money. Will health insurance scheme bring more money? That will be the first question. Is anybody trying to answer it? I haven't heard that answer yet.
Dr. Kadama, could you then help us answer that particular question that you just posed?
Do we have money?
Yes.
The answer has been that we don't, that we have a shortfall. I think the commissioner here just told us that out of a package of about 84 per capita dollars, we might have just about 50 from all sources, meaning we have a shortfall of 30. Remember, a small study recently, not recently, a few years ago, said that what we lose in corruption in this country is of the order of $300 million per year. This equates to about $200,000 to $300,000 per capita. But we cannot get more than $10 per capita to spend on health. It just means that the money is somewhere. We are not doing it well to put it to the purposes for which it is meant.
Dr. Mbonye, do you want to respond to what Dr. Kadama is saying?
Corruption has been talked about, and those figures have been given. And that's why initially I said we need to emphasize governance and accountability and efficient use of our resources.
How much longer shall we do this, Dr. Mbonye? This is a song, it's almost on everyone's lip. How much longer are we going to keep saying this?
It is something that everybody should be talking about. We shall continue talking about. Politicians, the health sector, the judiciary, the police. It is something that we cannot solve in one day or in 1 week. But we should continue talking about it, advocate for accountability, transparency, and efficient use of resources.
Okay. My senior colleague, Patrick, promised that I would open this conversation to you, the audience. I'm sure you've been sitting with a lot of questions. You are experts in this field. So I'll request somebody with a microphone to just help me move. Please keep your question as short as I am very mean, so I'll just interject you, yeah? Please, let's start with... Okay, there's a hand here. I also love gender balance, so please, ladies, try to attract my eye.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Nguyo from Kawale. That is the area Muchiga name. One of the things, I think all the discussions here has been focusing on lack of resources, human resource. And then I come from Kawale. I'm in the private sector, and there are less than 5 doctors in the private sector. Then if you look at the public sector, very few. So now there's demand for health services, but then the health service provision is inadequate. Human resource and finance, those are 2 issues. Then there's a big gap. People need the service. Who is filling the gap? The gap is filled by the quacks. Quacks are actually university graduates, not doing medicine, but doing other courses. and then they start masquerading to provide the services, convincing people. Typical example is someone comes with a pain in the knee and a person puts a stethoscope there. They have stethoscopes. You see, convincing a patient and then getting all the money.
Okay.
That one comes out as a result of all these shortfalls.
Thank you. Do you have a particular person you want to comment on your question?
Actually,
Maybe
that one, it was the now medical council is not there, but then it is the medical council and Ministry of Health to see how that one can get out of our society.
Okay. I'm trying to look for a lady. There's a lady there.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'll come to you.
I'm Dr. Muyama Sandra, and I'm standing for the post of treasurer. Yes, and I have a question to the doctor on the extreme left.
Dr. Mbonye.
Yes, about recruitment. Personally, I finished internship in 2015 from Bale Regional Referral Hospital. My first employer was Dr. Epuat in his clinic in Tororo, and he was giving me 1.5 million net. Then that was from August to December. Then I was headhunted to go and work in Tokora Health Center 4, that is Nakapiriprit district. Dr. Nguyo, he's not here, he's the DHO. He came to me and the MS of Moroto, Dr. Nyeko, they needed a doctor. They've only had one doctor for such a long time. So they needed a doctor in Tokora Health Center 4. I went there. I worked for 5 months. I was being supported by Quam. I was given a gross of 2 million and a take home of around 1.2, if I'm to remember very well. But for the 5 months I worked, I kept getting promises of you're going to be recruited, you're going to be recruited. Health Service Commission, what is that service commission? The District Service Commission refused to sit. For the 5 months I was there, I was with a colleague, Dr. Mugoya. He was in Nabilatuk Health Center. I always call him for follow-up. It's now how many years? That was 2015. But then they take so long and they want us to work.
Okay.
They call you at night, really? No.
All right, thank you, Sandra. I need to declare a conflict. Sandra is my OG, so that's why I gave her a bit of time to talk. Conflict of interest there declared. All right, there was a lady here as well. Yeah. I'll come to you, I promise.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I don't know, it's afternoon or evening. My questions, one to Professor Kulo. After he moved around the universities and realized that the problem was training in basics, what has the UMDPC done so far from the time they discovered that there was a problem? We have been taught by veterinary doctors instead of being taught by medical doctors. Veterinary doctors are the ones teaching medical doctors and are heading departments. So I don't know what they have so far done to bring that to light.
Who is answering your question, you said?
Professor Kulo.
Oh, do you want to redirect it here? No. Or
anyone in UMDPC can take it up?
Yeah, then, okay. This session was really for the panelists. But
no, hey, he's the responsible person.
Okay, so if you see another responsible person, please don't send them to the panel.
Then for the public service, what she's saying that she has been hearing as a rumor. One thing I wanted to tell the madam that as they are busy swinging their chairs in public service, a lot of wrong things are going down there. And when you hear a rumor, she must take it. A rumor is a source of information. Someone does not have to come and report. How often do they go down there to supervise the district service commissions to make sure that mwana wagundi things don't happen, so that every Uganda...
Is brought to you by
Plascon, color your world. The same paint you've known for over 55 years. The same products you've trusted to color your world. But now, with a new name, Plascon, color your world.
When you live in a place of possibility, when you're driving Africa's growth, you never stop moving forward.
Stanbic Bank. Moving forward.
One day, my daughter found an injured bird in our garden. But thanks to our care and protection, it started healing. Our skin also needed care and protection. I was recommended to wash with Protex Herbal, enriched with natural herbs. Its unique formula helps care and protect against 99.9% of germs, keeping our skin healthy. One day, the bird flew away, full of life. Protex Herbal, for the good health of your skin.
Beewuuba nga beekulungula wansi ate era ne batandika okwavula pampa ensibe ne teepu etendewalirwa era n'esumulukuku kati wano kiba kiseera kya pampas kapale ebatuukira ddala obulungi nyangu nnyo okubambaza ne bwe baba batambulatambula ebatuukira ddala era bamala essaawa nga 12 nga bakabe bwe batandika okwavula kimanyirengawo nti kiseera kya pampas kapale.
Mujabali, I'm helping Ugandans make the smart choice. Why choose this powder? It cleans just like any other ordinary detergent. Ariel gives you better stain removal in one wash, even with less powder. It can't be. Observe grass, tea, and chocolate drink. I'll need 2 handfuls. And just 1 handful of Ariel. See? Better stain removal with only 1 wash. It's the smart choice for sure. Ariel removes tough stains in 1 wash.
This is what it feels like. Now, this is what it feels like.
Today's highlight with
Ministry of Health and Social Marketing Activity with support from USAID. A good life starts with good health.
Today's highlight.
No one is manning their entrance. The minister is here. Security is being compromised. Where is Amos?
Well, I'm around the door. I'm manning myself. Just what happened with
That is inflated. You men are going to psychological.
What's in me?
You even rep school guys. You men are
Today's highlight.
We now know that millions of couples in Uganda trust and use modern family planning methods,
which help them plan and raise a manageable, happy family.
Visit the nearest Good Life clinic or call toll-free on 0800 200 600 to choose a suitable family planning method.
The Timeline is brought to you by MTN. Everywhere you go. Go TV. Live it, love it.
Whether the 2017 presidential election was conducted in accordance with the principles laid down in the Constitution and the law relating to elections, upon considering inter alia Articles 10, 38, 81, and 86 of the Constitution, as well as Sections 39(1)(c), 44, and 44A and 83 of the Elections Act, the decision of the court is that the first respondent failed, neglected, or refused to conduct the presidential election in a manner consistent with the dictates of the Constitution, and inter alia, the Elections Act, Chapter 7 of the laws of Kenya.
The court has made its decision. We respect it. We don't agree with it. And again, fellow Kenyans, I say peace. Because the fault is not yours. The fault is not yours. Your neighbor remains your neighbor.
That's all the time we had for on the show. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Don't forget star 150, star 55 hash for all your surfing needs, video, photo, whatever you want to look at, you'll be able to look at with ease from anywhere. And of course, GoTV is running something really, really, really exciting. Quarter Kavu with GoTV, where you can win 100 million shillings in 90 days. You can be among 10 lucky winners that will walk away with 200,000 shillings every week. Now, winners also stand a chance to enter the cash machine, where you can win up to 5 million shillings cash. To enter the draw, simply buy a GoTV decoder or renew your GoTV subscription and send your IUC number to 6488 and stand a chance to win in the weekly draws. Of course, don't forget, this promotion is valid for 90 days. Terms and conditions do apply. GoTV, live it, love it. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Goodbye, God bless. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. That is at the Timeline 256. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm August Daudi, and see you next time.
The Timeline was brought to you by
Switch to MTN Unlimited Internet everywhere, every time, for everything. Dial star 150 star 55 hash to choose your monthly package. True Unlimited is finally here.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Renew
your subscription by paying 26,000 shillings for GoTV Plus or 16,000 shillings for GoTV Value. Send your IUC number to 6488. Automatically enter the draw and stand a chance to win in the weekly draws. Enjoy a variety of great entertainment. GoTV. Live it, love it.
This is NTV.
The Beat is brought to you by...
Oh, without you now, this is what it feels like. Another one. We the best music. DJ Khaled.
I don't know if you could take it. No, you wanna see me naked. I wanna be a baby. Spinning in his red just like he came from Maytag. Rocket with it on the brown liquor. When I get like this, I can't be around you. I'm too little to dim down a notch. Cause I can do some things that I'm gon' do. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, 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 thoughts. Wow, wow, wow. When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts. Wow, wow, wow. When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts.
Let's go.
I hope you know I'm for the taking. You know this cookie's for the bag. Kitty, baby, get her things to rest. Like the 68 Jets. Diamonds are nothing when I'm rocking with you. Diamonds are nothing when I'm shining with you. Just keep it white and black as if I'm your sister. I'm too hip to hop around, trying to hit with you. I know I get wow, wow, wow. Wow, 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 thoughts. Wow, wow, wow. When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts. Wow, wow, wow. When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts.
I heard that for the taking. I heard it got these up going crazy. Yeah, I treat you like a lady. Till you burned out, cremation. Make it cream, yeah, Wu-Tang. Throw that back bouquet. Call me and I could get it juicy. I could tell you gone off the doors. Careful, mama, why what you say? You talking to me like your new babe. You talking like you trying to do things. Now that pipe gotta run it like she Usain, baby. You made me drown in it, ooh, touche, baby. I'm carrying that water, Bobby Boucher, baby. And you know I'ma slaughter like I'm Jason. That's why you got it on safety. Why go red, sit on brown liquor? I probably shouldn't be around you. Cause you get wild. You looking like it's nothing that you won't do. What you won't do? Hey girl, that's when I told you.
When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, 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 thoughts. Wow, wow, wow. When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts. Wow, wow, wow. When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts.
DJ Khaled.
Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. When I'm with you, all I get is wild thoughts.
onkubisa ndulu teka mwechiti jimpekako sina moyo bila uwe kwangu moto usuli wako kweli unanitoa jasho mwenye upendo umempata kitu mapenzi hakuna shaka tupendane sana nilidata mafuta ya mapenzi nitakupaka mimi na wewe tuvuke mpaka Dar es Salaam Bonga de Kampala wengine si wataki takataka penzi lako kwangu ni balaka tunalingana mimi na wewe tunafanana tunaelewana mimi na wewe hatutoachana baby wange sutako onkubisa ndulu teka mwechiti jimpekako olololo baby wange sutako onkubisa ndulu teka mwechiti jimpekako naomba unipoze lo bila wewe sina jinsi lo nikikumisi wangu kwangu ni so moyo wangu nakuita njoo roho yangu inadunda japo sina mukonga lakini kwangu songa ukisonga nikasonga penzi litakologa na kweli litanoga katinja galana lo weza lavunga kalo wambintu alasilo jagala konfuno tulo ololo baby wange sutako onkubisa ndulu teka mwechiti jimpekako olololo baby wange sutako onkubisa ndulu teka mwechiti jimpekako sinyumirwa ngao labayo bwemyusa amaso emmere bwendyako enkaire buzomunyo sente yadde sirina nnyo sonda yafunayo sosa kutoba sibivako omutima gumpe tojjayo baby wange sutako onkubisa ndulu teka mwechiti jimpekako olololo baby wange sutako onkubisa ndulu teka mwechiti jimpekako
baby unajua watu wanaongea mengi lakini nitakumwa
You've been here, but you've been missing for some time now. Yeah, yeah. Every time I see you, it's a different vibe now. Yeah. Oh, I can't help but let you just slip away. Can we get back what we had yesterday?
If I ride with you, better know that I'ma ride for you. Better use a gun and knife for you. I ain't finna choose a side over you. Yeah. If I ride with you, ain't nothing to provide for you. Ain't nobody in my life like you. Ain't nobody gonna shine like you.
Show me my love, oh God, show me sweet love, yeah. Show me my love, oh yeah. Show me sweet love, yeah. See, show me my love.
My team, we on that new team. My mink dragging like it's Luke King. My show pack, all the dimes there, but I be falling back from all the loose change. I drop the top on that new thing. My chocolate bra, they rock Gucci. Gotta know it's impossible to stop for Lauren. Got the box, I want the new thing, yeah. She gon' show out, before we start holla, roll out, yeah. She gon' gon' show out. Before you break it down, girl, roll up, run up. If I ride with you, better know that I'ma ride for you. Better know that we can live for each other. That don't mean I gotta die for you.
Show me my love. Oh God, show me sweet love. Yeah. Show me my love. Oh yeah, show me sweet love. Yeah. See, show me my
bring them out. Hard to hear, too many girls in the house. Hey, bring them out. I started here, I got the buzz in the cloud. I know. She got it all, but got nothing to hold. Every time I saw her, not too many know. She ain't really hard, she act because she hurt. Yeah, and I could be your last. Lead the past with your first.
Show me my love. Oh God, show me sweet love. Yeah. Show me my love. Oh yeah, show me sweet love. Yeah, see, show me my love. Oh yeah, show me sweet love. Yeah, show me my love. Show me sweet love. Control.
I love the sign out, yeah. She sounded dope on there. A big up to you, Vinka. Shout out to you, Songs Avenue. This is the beat, ladies and gentlemen. It is a Wednesday. It's a Thursday, yeah. No doubt, don't trip. It's a Thursday, and of course we're running the 10 hardest videos done from Uganda and those that are done out of this country. Yeah. Next week we'll definitely add lots brand new videos, but just this week we're just shuffling. We didn't add anything onto the countdown. We're just shuffling the numbers, you know, and of course we'll definitely run some bonus tracks much later on. But of course, if you just joined us, if it's your first time to catch this show, we are called the baddest award-winning TV show. We call NTV the beat, baby. And on the ones and twos is just Selector J. How are you doing?
Just Selector J is doing fine.
Everything nice?
Baddest show, baddest DJs, baddest presenter.
I know. That's how we flip like.
The baddest drink, Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. The baddest station.
I know. NTV. And tonight, speaking of Coca-Cola, tonight, there's a small party just for a few people, yeah? Just a few people. You know, we're just talking Coke Studio. But of course, the biggest unveil is on Sunday. Yeah. We are unveiling, you know, Coke Studio on your television. So pretty much, you know, you make your way and catch that first episode of Coke Studio. I've already shared the promo on my Instagram, on my Facebook, on my Twitter. It's already down there for you to get a picture of how big or how huge Coke Studio is, yeah? So go down to those places and check out what and exactly how it feels like. But okay, if you've never caught Coke Studio, Selector J, when we're done with the countdown, we run something of the past.
Some clips, we surely can.
Yeah, we can run like probably 1 or 2 clips, you know, of Coke Studio, so that you can get a feel of what this is all about. Otherwise, Jay, what have we run for the viewers?
Like you said, no new tracks on this week.
Yeah.
Just a few shuffles, numbers going here and there.
All right.
And just to give you a brief, at number 10, we have Wild Thoughts. For my number 1, of course, I think it's going down.
I know, it's going off the countdown right now.
DJ Khaled, Rihanna, and Bryson Tiller there. Then we have number 9, Wololo, a song that surely surprised me. I don't know where people... I'm not sure.
He was out of the country.
I don't know whether people just love David Lutalo as a person.
No, people love
or
this particular really song. Wololo, David Lutalo. That's a big jam. Big jam 2017.
So that one comes in at number 9.
All right.
And then at number 8 we have My Love, a song from Wale. Also features Wizkid on there.
All right.
And number 7 we had Overdose from Vinka and Voltage Music.
All right, cool.
A song that is doing well right now everywhere, radio, TV.
Shout out to Voltage Music. They have Stamina, it's still in audio, dope jam. I met the manager Abe a while ago, and he has so many plans for these boys, so many plans for these boys. But of course, speaking of those boys, Fort Portal, they are coming down. That is Voltage. I don't know if Kent or Flosso is the one of them is a Motoro. Yeah, one of them is a Motoro. Either Kent or Flosso, I'm not so sure. But one of them is a Motoro. We're coming down with Princess Juliana. The date is the 30th of this month. 3 weeks and a few days away. 3 weeks and a few days away. Tax will be 10 grand, that is 10K, and VIP is 20K. It is the Purple Party Tour, proudly brought to you by NTV Uganda, brought to you by AfriCell and Club Beer. But again, with partners from Fort Portal, we have Jubilee FM. That's the radio station that's running our ads. There's Reina Tourist Hotel, and also Cafe Azivia and Alan's Resort. That's the place that is hosting us. Beautiful, beautiful place, yeah? So thank you so much for partnering with us. And of course, we hope to deliver the biggest show in Fort Portal, so make sure you turn up. Otherwise, we're remaining with how many numbers?
6 tracks.
6 tracks?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So what number are we going to?
We're going to number 6, and that is questions from Chris Brown.
All right, cool. When we return, we have some guests on the show. Guess who? The smallest rapper alive. His name is Fefe Busi. I'll be talking to him in a bit. Besides Fefe Busi, I'll be also talking to Joste, the black man himself. He's having a concert this Friday. And of course, just like always, custom, supporting Ugandan music, that's pretty much what we are doing. So he is also coming through. So just stay there, and Fefe Busi, I'm a guest for today. Otherwise, right about now, this is Showtime. 20, how many questions?
It's just questions.
Oh, okay. There was a song, 21 questions.
Yeah, there was.
Let's go get it. Let's come back.
How you deal with?
From 'cause I'm dangerous. That boom boom sound like angel dust. Girl, let me hold ya. Put me ting all around ya. Make me feel like I own ya. Kill it boom like a warrior. Hit the boom like. Girl, I got a question for ya. Can I get an answer? Yeah, 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 yeah. Girl, I got a question for ya. Can I get an answer? Yeah, 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 yeah. Let me hold you. Come caress my body. You got me going crazy. Oh. Turn me up, turn me up. Let me love you. Put your arms around me. You got me going crazy. Turn me up, turn me up. Girl, I got a question for you. Can I get an answer? Yeah, 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 yeah. Girl, I got a question for you. Can I get an answer? Yeah, 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 yeah,
Ya de katona kankanya kankanya. Ya de katona kankanya kankanya. Ya de katona kankanya kankanya. Elobi, hey, never come katono. Kabela kankolera, kabela kankolera. Kasaka wamwe chungo, zewama kankolera. Kabela kankolera, never come katono. Kabela kankolera, kabela kankolera. Kasaka wamwe chungo, zewama kankolera. Kabela kankolera. Vuga bichizi kwa vuga lore. Choka pakingi yontono adete jamulore. Yewola senta kole mbaga. Choke ya muola na twala mgolewe. Katono na yeke kange. Chinene cha chingata si change. Oli mubangalo nange jeno wange. Wadaka yuma katono na yeke kange. Nyumirwa yade siri mugaganyo. Yade siri mugaganyo. Chendi na chimala chenkole lange inyo. Banange chinkole lange inyo. Kabela kankolera, kabela kankolera. Kasaka wama chungo, ze wama kankolera. Kabela kankolera, never kama katono. Kabela kankolera, kabela kankolera. Kasaka wama chungo, ze wama kankolera. Kabela kankolera, hey. Kabela katono na yenga sebo, ako sigala kubongo. Hey. Kabela katono na yenga sebo, kanyenyo mugongo. Kazina nekateka mwebisoko binyumengerije kalina mwevako nzato bakansingira nalibye dene hey kasingira nalibye dene kabela katono na yenga sebo akosigala kubwongo hey kabila katono na yenga sebo kanyenyo mugongo kabela kankolera kasaka wamwe chungo ze wama kankolera kabela kankolera never kaba katono kabela kankolera Kasaka wama chungo, ze wama kankolera, kabela kankolera. Hey, vuga bichizi kwa vuga lole, choka pakingi yontono adete jamulole. Yewola senta kole mbaga, choke ya muola na twala mgolewe. Katono na yeke kange, chinene cha chingata si change. Oli mubangalo nange jeno wange, wadaka yumba katono na yeke kange. Nyumirwa, yade siri mugaganyo. Yade siri mugaganyo. Chendi na timala chenkole lange inyo. Banange chinkole lange inyo. Kabela kankolera, kabela kankolera. Kasaka wamwe chungo, ze wama kankolera. Kabela kankolera, never kaba katono. Kabela kankolera, kabela kankolera. Kasaka wamwe chungo, ze wama kankolera. Kabela kankolera. Hey, black skin, yellow beats, Gargamel, the cool.
This is what it feels like. without you now. This is what it feels like.
The Big School Fun Moment with Big.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it rocking. Got booty just to chop.
Yes, sir.
Me, I go chop all the washing. As long as you give me my passion. Baby, make you know the rush me. I beg you, make you treat me with caution. Let go. My baby, give me let go. Hangover. Baby, she did give me hangover. Hey, let go. Hey. Oh, no, give me let go. Hey, game over. She did come give me game over.
It takes hours of training to glide like this. Big Crystal is made to glide like that. Big Crystal, it makes the grade.
Distributed by African Queen, #1 Distributor Limited.
Selena! Hello. Kitchen gets a 10 out of 10. Thank you. This also gets a 10. Should we see the toilet now? Sure. This gets just 1. It is clean. But not perfected. Better than my cleaners? Impossible. Challenge. Try the new Harpic 10X. Compared to ordinary cleaners, Harpic's thick formulation removes yellow stains 10 times better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet. Wow! Now you also take the Harpic 10X Challenge.
Watch the beat come to life on the all-new season of Coke Studio Africa. Launches in September.
Come and move that in my direction. So thankful for that, it's such a blessing, yeah. Turn every situation into heaven, yeah. Oh, you are my sunrise on the darkest day. Got me feeling some kind of way. Make me wanna savor every moment slowly, slowly. You fit me, tailor-made, love how you put it on. Got the only key, know how to turn it on. The way you never lie my ear, the only words I wanna hear. Baby, take it slow so we can last long.
Tú eres el imán y yo soy el metal. Me voy acercando y voy armando el plan. Solo con pensarlo se acelera el pulso.
Oh yeah, ya me está gustando más de lo normal. Todos mis sentidos van pidiendo más. Esto hay que tomarlo sin ningún apuro.
Despacito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito. Deja que te diga cosas al oído, para que te acuerdes si no estás conmigo. Despacito, quiero desnudarte a besos despacito. Firmo en las paredes de tu laberinto y hacer de tu cuerpo todo un manuscrito.
Quiero ver bailar tu pelo, quiero ser tu ritmo. Que le enseñes a mi boca tus lugares favoritos. Déjame sobrepasar tus zonas de peligro, hasta provocar tus gritos y que olvides tu apellido.
Si te pido un beso, ven dámelo. Yo sé que estás pensándolo. Llevo tiempo intentándolo. Mami, esto estás mirándolo. Sabe que tu corazón conmigo te hace bam bam. Sabe que esa beba está buscando de mi bam bam. Me pruebas de mi boca para ver cómo te sabe. Quiero ver cuánto amor a ti te cabe. Yo no tengo prisa, yo me quiero dar el viaje. Empezamos lento, después salvaje. Pasito a pasito, suave, suavecito. Nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Cuando tú me besas con esa destreza, veo que eres malicia con delicadeza. Pasito a pasito, suave, suavecito. Nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Y es que esa belleza es un rompecabezas, pero para montarlo aquí tengo la pieza, oye.
Despacito, quiero respirar tu cuello despacito. Deja que te diga cosas al oído, para que te acuerdes si no estás conmigo. Despacito, quiero desnudarte a besos despacito. Firmo en las paredes de tu laberinto y hacer de tu cuerpo todo un manuscrito.
Quiero ver bailar tu pelo, quiero ser tu ritmo. Que le enseñes a mi boca tus lugares just wanna hear you screaming, ay bendito. I can live forever cuando esté contigo. Pasito a pasito, suave suavecito, nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Enseñas a mi boca tus lugares favoritos. Pasito a pasito, suave suavecito, nos vamos pegando poquito a poquito. Hasta provocar tus gritos y que olvides tu apellido. Despacito.
Her name is Juliana Kanyomozi, Princess there. She's coming down to Fort Portal for the Purple Party, 30th of September, this very month. Your home girl is coming down alongside Mr. A-Pass, also from that side, alongside Aziza Znonya, also from that side, alongside Voltage Music, alongside Latinum, yeah? Make sure you turn up. Entrance is 10K, VIP is 20K. Of course, interestingly to note, Juliana has been having some interesting exchange online regarding the picture that Rasa took while they were going to the US, and in the picture, you know, caused a lot of tension between the two, and until she came out, I think yesterday, and she's like, look here, I don't know this person, I'd never met him, he actually would have asked for permission to take my picture and things like that, and I was not in any way on the same flight with him that we went together, but he just phoned me probably on the flight. And of course, this was received with mixed comments, other people in support, other people dissing and things like that. And I think yesterday again in the morning, she wrote something and she says, I'm a nice person, so if I'm being a B, you know, ITCH to you, ask yourself why. You understand? Everybody has a good and soft side, but that same person can turn to be, you know, different regarding the situation, yeah, depending on the situation. So that's Juliana for you, the diva over there. But of course, that song is on the countdown right here. It's our latest song. We're remaining with just a few songs to wrap this up. On the show today, I told you I do have Fefe Busi, I do have Joe Steady, who is also having a concert this Friday. So we are rallying behind to show him some support. But don't forget, in Ziranago, Maro, there's a concert popping up. Ginger, that concert is going to be done in your area code. Also, Gravity to concert. Guys, we have to feel cricket over. Yes, and we are going to do so, yeah? So let's go down and support all these brothers. Let's go support all these brothers, Palazzo, Radiant Wizard, 10 years, and so many of these other guys, yeah? But of course, on the show right about now is Fefe Busi, smallest rapper. Welcome to the beat.
Thank you, brother.
How are you doing?
I'm good. These
days you look dope, man.
Thank you, man.
I'm just saying. Now there is a fashion beat attached to you these days.
Oh.
Lately. and you love to do tracks.
Yeah.
That's your identity.
That's my identity now. Big up to my fashionista, Henry there. Big up at Tricky Trends. Big up Fake Naila. Big up
that's not you.
No, you
know, it's interesting. Yeah, that's how brands are created.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be that. In different colors.
Yeah,
you had a blue one. Very nice stuff. Very nice stuff. So for creating a brand watch, you're creating a brand watch. And that's why you find some people probably have too many tattoos. Other people probably prick their ear. Other people cut their hair in a certain way. Brands are created like that.
Yeah, I get it.
Big up. Big up. Fefe, bonga kubantu.
Yo, abatulaba abali kwenye TV yamana abatavako bakaiseka Fefe Busi kabapa kasingo kutono kuzikiro zangu balotandikira kuziro ngoda wansi anti mbamba sazeko in the building NTV the beat.
Alright. Fefe, the last time we had you was way back.
Yeah.
Ngatu premiering yes no?
Yeah.
Miaka jiseo. Fast forward. Just a few months have passed and evolved.
A few months.
Yes, no is still a monster hit. Was a monster hit. Still a monster hit. Will always be a monster hit. How did that song work for you?
Oh, it was a pleasure, man. It was so massive. I never expected that. The love that they were showing me, and even now the love they are showing me, man.
Just what you know, geza. Like for real?
Yeah. I did it in studio because I was with some rapper, some underground rapper, and he was like, "You don't do hip hop. You guys don't do hip hop. You guys who are in this industry, you know, the debate that goes on." So when I went in studio, I was like, I have to do something for this underground rapper.
For them to know.
For this underground rapper that I was talking with.
To understand that you were true hip hop.
The only thing I came to know. And it was a massive song, man. So big up my fans, big up everyone who fell in love with my music, and everyone who's supportive, man. Big up on yourself.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is the song. Let's run the song first, yes, no. And of course, we come back. Fefe is here to drop a new one.
You
know when an artist drops a big song, the next question is what next?
What next?
And the artist can spend sleepless nights. That is a heavy burden. Which one is tukangako? Please don't pray it happens to you.
You have to pray it happens to you.
It's good to have a hit, but a hit can be on your shoulder.
Then you're not a musician.
For real?
Yeah.
For real?
You know,
you've not seen people that do those monster hits and then Chibale Mokuzako? Haven't you seen that?
I've not been in those shoes.
No. But haven't you seen it like as a bystander and go yimi dewabweru? Tochira wangako? Select a jealous on the video.
No.
Yo. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Kano kavudde wa wambu. No.
Kavudde no moja live.
Yeah.
Producer Fefe Busi.
No.
Producer Yakusave.
Yeah.
Oli loser.
No.
Oli winner.
Yeah.
Watandiko yina.
No.
Naye atofuna.
Yeah.
Oli musiru.
No.
oli mujagujagu wasoma n'omalako naye ate gwaliko oli munafu okola nnyo olya ne banno ofuna olya wekka oyagala okufa eggulu olyagala wegayaza oba ositukirawo oli mwavu jasiti bikyali biwanvu onzoleya ommatira osasulirawo olamuzaako otya nnyo otya katonda yekka bakuba nnyo mbakuba nnyo oli kisembo olemerako oli kisembo obafaako naye bakwogerako oli wa yero oli wa bbulu oli mu mativu kibulamu ku bwerufu oli mberera walozaako oli kukkalayo